number of scholarships they give out varies. The makeup of the scholarship, they have all services offered scholarships, and you can apply for all three at the same time. Okay, so to contract, to receive a scholarship offer, no, you do not have to be a U.S. citizen. To actually contract and receive the scholarship benefits, you have to be a U.S. citizen. So it's a requirement to be an Army officer. You have to be
Yes, that's awesome.
But if you've got the scholarship and you're on the path to becoming a citizen,
we're already like best friends.
We're able to help influence some things to try to get your package fast trackers so that you can get approved. So you can we have I've actually got last year I had 4 cadets, a couple of them. I've got two in my program right now that earn their citizenship in their time while in college. One of them will actually be any other questions? All right, good. Yeah, so you're talking after you graduate from college? Okay, so the way the scholarship works is we'll pay for your school, either tuition and fees or room and board. So tuition and fees we'll pay whatever the bill is with the university for tuition and fees, that's what the Army will pay. So if it's $10,000, we pay the $10,000. If it's $26,000, like a university, I pay the $26,000 a semester for that. If you take a room and board, you get $5,000 deposit and do whatever bank account you tell us. Okay, so that's what you get. At the end of that, once you graduate from commission, then your service requirements comes out to a total of 8 years. That's the standard right now. So you have to do either 4 years active duty and then 4 years on inactive reserve, or you can go straight 8 years reserve, straight 8 years for national guard. Oh yeah. Once you commission and you're a second lieutenant, if you're on active duty, you're okay. If you're going to the National Guard or the reserves, you're on the National Guard and the reserve. And you get paid that the 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. So it's not a requirement that you have to go active duty if you receive scholarship. Anybody else? Yes, but you have to, in order to contract and receive the scholarship benefits, you have to be a citizen first. And then you would have to contract before.
Gotta be a citizen. What am I awesome. All right. Yeah, that's sweet. Yeah, I just go to the debt now. See, I don't know what I'm going to say for that. Which one?
This one, how did you see it?
It's
Such a broad question.
Yeah.
I just see what everybody else says.
I had to do some research for some of these because I was like, I don't know some of those. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, this ain't that bad.
Can I keep this?
Yeah, I have this little thing right here.
I'm gonna can I take this home? I'm gonna take it home. Not the plastic, at least the paper.
Hey, yeah, there's some cyber command. Just remember, you don't really need to rush your answers. You want to take your time. They want me to go for an hour.
That'll be good space, and there's a good bit of questions.
There's 5 of us up here, so.
These questions are pretty intense, so you can take your time to answer. Yeah. We're doing cybersecurity and going to the rest of the future. I mean, you can talk about it.
So are you gonna say the question? Are you gonna say the question, and then each of us are gonna answer down the line, like our own?
I'll do that.
Okay.
My answer to that question is, I believe it will become more remote and better computers. Thanks, sir.
That's a red in the T-38 this summer.
How we doing, Chief?
Chief?
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. I'm going to start standing. We'll see how lazy I get. I might sit down a little bit later. But before me, I got 5 ROTC across Air Force and Army cadets that are all interested in or studying cybersecurity or computer science. My name is Captain William Buckley. I am a Georgia Institute of Technology Army ROTC instructor, but I also am studying cybersecurity as well at Georgia Tech. So we're going to start from left to right here with Gabriel, and they're each going to introduce themselves and where you go to school, what you're studying, and yeah, go ahead.
All right, so my name is Gabriel Beckham. I go to Georgia Southern University, and I study information technology with a specialization in cybersecurity.
Oh, you can sit the whole time, Gabriel. No problem.
Sure.
Hey y'all, I'm Vince Giordano. I'm an Air Force ROTC cadet down at Georgia Tech. I go to South State University for my main classes, study computer science, and hopefully be a cyber officer in the Air Force.
Hi, my name is RJ Norman. I'm an Army ROTC cadet from Kennesaw State. I'm majoring in cybersecurity with hopes of becoming a network defender in the future.
Hey, good morning, guys. I'm a cadet private first class Austin Seidel at the University of North Georgia. I'm an Army ROTC cadet, and I study cybersecurity in Arabic.
Good
Good morning, everyone. My name is Cadet Major Connor Skidmore. I am a senior at Kennesaw State University. I go to the Detachment 165 at Georgia Tech, just like Cadet Giordano down the table, and I'm studying computer science. I've been selected for Air Force pilot training after I commission, but I'm excited to learn how cybersecurity and work with cybersecurity professionals in that field and see how that applies. So,
Great. Thank you, gents. The way this panel is going to run is, I just got some open-ended questions for each of you, and about a minute to respond to each is just fine, and anything you want to add outside of that. So the first question I got for each of you, we'll start with Gabriel here. When, how, and why did you get interested in cybersecurity?
So I guess it originally started with my parents treating me like a wizard whenever I fixed the Wi-Fi by plugging that in. And from there, that led me to go, okay, maybe something that could be like cool, like people recognize me as cool. So I took my first technology class in high school, and that led me to become even more interested because I started programming in HTML. And so when it came to go to college and choose my major, I decided to choose IT, specifically cybersecurity, because it sounded cool, it sounded important, and it sounded like something that was going to be like a rising career opportunity. I entered college with a Army scholarship, and wanting to make the most out of my Army career, I decided to join cyber to hopefully pursue cyber whenever I graduate.
So I initially got interested in high school. From my understanding, you guys are in high school as well, right? All right. So what got me interested was actually an AP computer science class that I took. Do you guys have any AP computer science class at your school? I would recommend taking it. It's a little hard, but it's not too bad. Nothing like AP Calc. But I took that, and before that, I wasn't really interested in computers or computer science. Like, yeah, I played as like a 14-year-old building on PC and stuff, but taking that class was when I really got interested because we were learning about, like, even at the beginning of the basic stuff, like Roman ciphers that we used 2,000 years ago, that kind of just like the grandfather of what how we encrypted nowadays.
For me, it was pretty much kind of like, I grew up with computers. I mean, I'm like super young, I'm not even gonna tell you how old I am. But like, I always had interest in technology, especially in like middle school. I always took every technology class that they had, but high school really did it for me. I started out with cybersecurity because we had those courses at my school, dived into advanced cyber, and then once I actually joined the National Guard, I kind of really took off with cyber because I was like, Signal Corps is cool, but cyber is where I really want to be. So yeah.
So I actually didn't get interested in cyber until I was a sophomore in college. Kind of that general pathway goes, you take a lot of core classes, get those out of the way, and then you start hitting classes in your major. It wasn't until I took a course called Applied Cybersecurity that went over some conceptual stuff as well as some ethical hacking concepts and labs that I truly started to realize just how much the industry has grown, how many pathways that you can take with it, how many opportunities you can make to just develop a career. And so with that, I've been able to see what other people have done through my peers, what my professors, and through their passions has encouraged me along the way to pursue this path. Personally, while I've been going through school and doing some things outside, there's so many things you can learn and so many things that you can apply directly in that moment, and it's overall a very satisfying and accomplishing field.
So I kind of have a similar story to previous members. My parents would always ask me how to fix their iPhones and update their software, things like that. I'd do very basic tasks for them, and they thought I was just the best guy at fixing computers and things like that. And I kind of took that forward in high school and created my own little business, and I would go around to my elderly neighbors' houses and help them with their computers and help them update their software, just figure out stuff like their healthcare, Medicaid software on their computers. And then I took my first computer science class at the University of North Georgia, actually. I did dual enrollment there, and I'm a huge proponent of dual enrollment, by the way. I know AP is something that all y'all's high school probably has, but all of that's writing on the test at the end, right? With dual enrollment, as long as you pass the class, then you get college credit, and everybody accepts it, right? Even if you get a B or a C in that class, your college will accept that credit, the one that you go to after high school. And it's free. The state pays for it, and they pay for books too, so look into that, please. But I took my first computer science class at the University of North Georgia, learned Java there, learned how to code, and for some reason I decided to enroll at Kennesaw State as an electrical engineer instead of computer science, but after my first circuit analysis class, I figured that wasn't for me. I decided to go back into computer science, and I found it really fulfilling to learn the power of computers, the true power of computing systems, and how the world is changing around that paradigm. So that's how I got interested.
No, thank you, gentlemen. All unique stories. Great. Now, my next question's a little bit more dense. We're talking about your future here. So, what I tell my cadets is the military is a marriage that is destined for divorce. You will get divorced, whether it's in 5 years, 10 years, 20, 30 years. You could be in the military. Eventually, the Air Force or the Army will be like, I'm done with you. You may go. So, with that in mind, outside of the military, what type of job are you looking to go into within cybersecurity? Or maybe, I know, Norman, you're in the National Guard. Maybe you'll go right into a civilian job. What jobs are you looking for?
For me personally, I am putting my eggs in the Commissioning Army cyber basket. Depending on how long I stay in cyber will determine what kind of civilian career I choose, because it may be an entirely different world then. If I'm thinking about the world as it is right now, I want to go to a company and work as their cybersecurity lead, and make sure that we keep them secure. Because I get I use password manager because I have a different password for everything, and I get notifications when they get compromised, and I know that it is very easy for security to get compromised. So that's something that I want to improve.
Yeah, so for me, because I'm in the Air Force, obviously, I do want to commission as a cyber officer. I want to go not so much the communication side of things, but the cybersecurity / offensive cyber route. But that's all the way back to commissioned. Military wasn't a thing for me. I'd probably extend my degree a little bit and get some more classes, maybe go for a master's, and hopefully working either as like a software developer or cybersecurity specialist. So I know cybersecurity, especially right now, a lot of tech jobs are cutting back, but cybersecurity is growing at unprecedented level. Because every day a company is hacked and they lose money, or China comes in and it's like hack some of our systems, national defense. But hopefully in the Air Force, going back to the Air Force, I would like to be like a cyber mission team lead. From what I understand, I don't know too much about the recruiters and not in yet, but from what I understand, new lieutenants are like cyber mission team leads after all missions and stuff. So I would like to oversee those teams. That's like my aspirations, my next aspiration.
For me, I really want to, like I said, I want to be a network defender. I really find interest in not having people in my business. So, pretty much, defending, kind of hits a little home for me, because I was when you can defend what's yours, you don't have to worry about, like I said, people being in your business. And I don't want another country in my business, because you don't need to know what's going on over here, because I don't want to come over there. And being in the National Guard, because I'm a 25 uniform, which is a signal support system specialist, being able to pretty much have a little bit in everything in signal, I kind of understand what goes into it. And that's the kind of reason why I kind of shy away and I go work with the so I can understand what their job is and really get to understand the insides and the outsides of what they do. There's also a little bit more to me about this, just not necessarily defending, but like I also want to be a little hacker. I want to be a hacker just a little bit. Not really like I don't want to be like super big into it, but I feel like if you take the right steps and you actually put the work into it, you know, you can be like one of the best that there is. And I want to be the best.
Yeah, so as an Army ROTC cadet, it's pretty evident that I'm going to be serving as an officer in some capacity, whether active duty or guard. I've chosen the guard route. I'm actually enlisted right now as an 11 Bravo or infantryman, but I've also used the simultaneous membership, SMP route to occupy a position inside an intelligence unit, shadow a lieutenant, and get some experience with that. I do intend to branch the military intelligence route, not necessarily cyber, but they do work very closely. Being in the National Guard, I'm very blessed that I can work full-time in the civilian sector. Two routes that I've considered with that is going a little more public or a government route through the National Security Agency. The private side is hoping to be more home-based out of Atlanta, doing penetration testing. I really firmly believe that's one of the best ways to get into cybersecurity. If you do, understanding offensive adversarial techniques and strategies is one of the best ways to learn how to defend against them if you were to ever become a leader in a cyber organization.
So as an Air Force ROTC cadet, I'm going to be commissioning as a second lieutenant next May as an officer in the Air Force. And like I said before, I'm headed off to pilot training after that. So I know it's kind of strange that I'm here talking at a cybersecurity panel, but this is one of my main interests besides flying, and my major in college is computer science. And you might not know this, but in the commission side of the military and the officer side of the military, in order to get kind of higher up in the ranks, you kind of need to go for a master's degree, right? And it's always good to continue your education and never stop learning. But for my master's degree, I want to study cybersecurity, and then after I get out, because my active duty service commitment is 10 years, so I will be in the Air Force flying for 10 years. But after I get out, a lot of pilots end up going to the airlines, but for me, I don't know if that would be as fulfilling. So I'd like to find a way to kind of, like we talked about marriages earlier, marry my interest in cybersecurity with my interest in flying and figure out a way. Because everything with flying is electronic now, right? Everything uses computers, everything uses technology in aircraft. So it would be very fascinating to me to find a way to combine my two interests for flying and cybersecurity together and find a good industry or a good company to work for. And like we were talking to Mr. Jim earlier, this is a great place to network, right? So there's a lot of people here that you'll meet if you're interested in going into cybersecurity or computer science, any of that kind of stuff. Go get some business cards. Go talk to people, right? Because they're wanting to hire people. That's one of the reasons why they're here, and they might give you a job after you get out of college. So,
great advice. Thank you. So, you all are feeling this in high school. Things are going in your ear and out the other, and guess what? College is kind of the same, right? But there are some lessons that really do stick with us, and you guys are pretty deep into your education right now, and it's something that you've chosen to study, unlike these young folks out here. They don't get to choose what they study, so you have a little bit more interest in what you're looking at. So with that, my next question for each of you is, what is the most important lesson that college has taught you in any of your classes about cybersecurity, and describe that for us?
college, what I learned about cybersecurity is actually how simple it can be to protect yourself from like would-be hackers or whatever. I mean, nowadays, if you have a long password that has a bunch of random characters and stuff, it's very hard, if not impossible, to break that password by forcing, like, having a computer generate you a bunch of passwords and try to hopefully lucky guess it. So nowadays, a lot of people, how they get into systems happens through called social engineering. I learned this through my time in college, and what social engineering is basically, let me give you an example. So, like, say I dress up as a construction worker, I got a hard hat, a ladder, and a little vest on, and I've already tried to break into some company's website or some company's servers through using my computer remotely. However, I pretend to be a construction worker, I walk into their building, and since I'm dressed up in some sort of like position of authority because I'm a construction worker or no one really questions, I can like walk in, pretend like I'm doing construction work, go plug in a USB to their server, and then give myself access. So since there are systems in place that cybersecurity is so effective, people do things like that. Or another form of social engineering is basically getting an insider into some company. So say I have a friend of a friend who's in that company I want to get into, and I offer that friend of a friend $10,000 to give me a password or something, and keep in communication with me. I don't have to go through hacking and try to force a password or something. I have someone that I know in that company web system getting access. That's probably the biggest thing I've learned about cybersecurity. Is not always like in the movies or just sitting on a computer with ones and zeros going back and forth. It's actually a good bit about talking to people and interacting with people to get access.
I would say that the most important lesson I learned out of my courses is the actual security part of it. Like he's talked about social engineering, that is actually one of the key factors of today's, incidents. But security doesn't necessarily mean, like you said, typing on a computer, being on a computer 24/7. It goes from having certain types of policies down to simply, is the door locked? Truly, that's just what it is. And like, not to make things seem like, oh, okay, you may have super strong security or weak security, but simply it all breaks down to, do you have enough to keep this person from coming in? Like, you lock your door at night, right? You don't want nobody coming like, oh, your door's unlocked. I'm just walking here. I'm going to go in the refrigerator, and I'm going to drink all your water, the Kool-Aid, whatever it is. And that's just how it is. Like, stolen credentials, that happens because people either, you either give it to them, or they're going to find a way to get it. So why not keep them from getting it? I'll give you a small little story. So in high school, my senior year, I was taking advanced cyber with my teacher, Mr. Gundy. Great teacher, amazing. But he gave us a task, and it was simply find all the vulnerabilities within our school. So we went around, me and my team, and we found almost, I can't even tell you how many unlocked doors, how many holes, or like in the fences, where you could just simply just walk in. Like, truly, like, you could even walk into the office, like with all the administrators. That door's supposed to be locked. I was a senior adopter in high school, which means, like, I was able to have, I was kind of like a mentor. But being able to just walk around, like, I know this door's supposed to be locked because I had a key to it. But I wasn't using my key. I shouldn't be able to just walk in here and be like, oh, what's going on, y'all? Or I shouldn't be able to go right into the maintenance room where, like, we have the water heaters and everything else, the electrical work. It's the simple things like that. That's why I say, like, security is, like, super hard, You gotta stay on top of it.
Awesome. So I would definitely attribute to the University of North Georgia the encouragement of critical thought. It's used in a lot of your courses, and it's something that you're going to have to develop over time if you don't already have it. However, the greatest lesson I learned was more so as an adult than just at university, is understanding to look at a situation from multiple angles. And I apply this actually directly to cybersecurity because there's a whole lot to it, more than just offensive or defensive operations. So understanding exactly what your job is, and not getting tunnel vision in that role, understanding how you fit in the big picture, that's really where you're going to find a lot of your motivation and a lot of your purpose. Understanding where you fit is not only important for your own role, but also if you're a leader in that organization, understanding how to utilize each of those facets to come together and accomplish a common goal. And by doing that, it can improve the organization as a whole. It can improve even the individuals at the lowest level inside that organization.
So the biggest thing I learned as far as cybersecurity goes in my time in college is how it's everyone's responsibility. So cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility. I mean, I'm not sure how many of you are interested in cybersecurity. I'm assuming a lot of you because you're here. But some of you may not be. Some of you may be interested in other topics. But it still will come into play in your future career somehow. Even if you're a secretary or a janitor or an office worker, you could be the person that lets that guy in a reflective vest in with some sort of malware stick to plug into the computer and infect your entire company, right? So it affects every single one of us, and therefore it's every one of our responsibility to secure the cyber systems that we encounter on our day-to-day jobs or day-to-day life. In fact, there have been stories of people just grabbing random USB sticks off the ground. There may be vendors out here, and I'm sure none of them would do this, but you got to be careful what you plug into your computer, right? So if you see a jar of USB sticks that somebody is just giving away, I would not recommend plugging that into your computer at school because you don't know what's on that. So like I said before, the biggest lesson I learned in college about cybersecurity is how it's every one of our responsibilities.
So we went over the most important lesson, but I want to know what you guys, what do you enjoy most about your program of study? What do you enjoy most about it?
I'd say there's two things I enjoy the most. The first I enjoy, but also I despise, is that there's always more to learn. You never reach an end. You never say, okay, I know cybersecurity. I know Python. I know everything there is to know about this topic. There's always more. There's more certifications. There's more classes. There's more things you can look up. There's exploits and making things more efficient that people just find out by experimentation. So there's always more to learn. But I do love that because that presents endless opportunity. For example, if I wasn't studying cybersecurity, I wouldn't be here today talking in front of you. If I didn't choose to declare a STEM major and fight for a technology major in college, I might not have received an Army scholarship and been able to be where I am right now. I also may not have gotten the internship I got over this summer. I was able to go up to West Point for a month and stay at the Army Cyber Institute where I worked along a research doctor and 3 other cadets across the country where we worked on a research project all month. And that was a very unique opportunity because going into the summer, I never thought I'd come out of it like writing a research paper. I thought I would go to college, I'd take my classes, I'd come out, and I'd have a degree, and I'd just continue on with life. But it really sparked a bit of passion for me. I'm currently working on that paper with one of the authors from West Point right now. We are writing it remotely with each other, and I'd say opportunity is definitely the number one thing I love about technology and cybersecurity in general.
So coming from computer science, I'd say my favorite aspect of my course of study is the problem-solving aspect of it. Because it's computer science, it deals a lot with coding. Actually, when we show of hands, who can code in any program? So anyone. Raise your hand. Hi. Okay. You can come down. So programming and coding is actually a lot easier than it might seem. So I recommend all y'all, even if you're not interested in computer science, to develop some sort of skill, get some sort of experience with programming. YouTube is your best friend, and so is the internet. Start Googling stuff. And I know I learned a bunch of coding stuff, not necessarily in class, but like me watching YouTube videos. I find that part exciting about my course of study is how not just like cybersecurity, computer science fields deal with computers and coding nowadays. It's just about everything's going that direction. So if you can put that, hey, I know something in Python very much or HTML, that'll help your resume a lot. But yeah, if you do go into the computer science field, the programming, or the problem-solving aspect of it through programming is very, very engaging.
Kind of like piggybacking off of what he said, but not necessarily problem solving, but critical thinking, because it takes a lot. It really takes a lot in my program of study to sit there and understand what the situation is, because no situation is the same. I promise you, it's never the same. How many of you in here actually like to think? Like, okay, right? Whether it's a random idea or something small, like, hey, do I really like this or not? You know? For me, like, complex problems, they interest me because it requires me to think and sit there and find out why is this happening, what actually is going on, and how can I fix it? What problems am I going to run into while I'm trying to fix this situation? Necessarily, if all the doors are locked in here, how am I going to get out of here, right? Well, first off, I think I would probably see if these ceiling tiles move. I don't know how I'm going to get up there, but I'll figure it out. So it's things like that. Critical thinking plays a huge part in cybersecurity because, like I said before, no situation is the same. So when you're sitting there and you're wanting to defend this network or you're trying to get into someone else's network, there's a lot that goes into that process. So yeah, I don't really have too much to say about it because it's kind of like self-explanatory just a little bit, but yeah.
Awesome. So I enjoy the constant push for learning that it's either the field itself or that the university gives for this kind of degree. I've only been in the field for about 2 years now and kind of not necessarily in the field. But I've seen just how much technology has changed over the past 10, 20 years, especially since my dad still makes jokes about phones with cables, which I've never seen before. But seeing just how that technology has changed, I've also seen just how much the security is needed to change with it. And I know that all the professionals inside that field have needed to constantly study and learn and catch up with the new technology that comes with it. And it's kind of the writing on the wall that I'm going to have to do the same thing. So having that push for learning is excellent. And, of course, the frustrating part about how much it changes past 10, 20 years, when you're in school for 4 years, what you may learn then may be completely different when you graduate and get into the field itself. But the best thing that you can take is, the methods that you use to learn that right now you're in high school or when you get to college, what methods you use to study, keep up on what's the latest and greatest, and use that for whenever you get into whatever career you decide to pursue so that you can build new skills or build the skills that you currently have.
So not to copy off of what's been said already, but I have to be honest, my favorite part of my program of study is coding. I just love coding because of the problem solving, because of the critical thinking that it involves. It's really satisfying when you've been working on a piece of code for days, even weeks, and it finally works. That's just the most satisfying part of my career, or of my program of study, I should say. And you have actually, there's a cybersecurity aspect to that as well, because there's big picture cybersecurity where you have the unlocked doors, the social engineering, things like that. There's also literal errors in the code or weaknesses in the code that can cause a system to be more vulnerable to attacks. So coding for me is just the marriage of all we've talked about with critical thinking, with problem solving, with just thinking in general, like really deep thinking, and that's why I love coding. So.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. I think you're definitely alone there. Coding's my nightmare. All right. So there's a lot of threats out there, a lot of cybersecurity threats. You guys have probably heard the terms. Your red hat hackers and your black hat hackers, right? For those of you who don't know, your red hat is your nation states. It's your those who hack and disrupt for political purposes or working on behalf of a hostile nation. And you got your black hat hackers. They want money. They want to disrupt. Sometimes they just want to do it for the fun of it, to see if they can. So with that in mind, I want you to think about, national defense. So what do you see as right now is our greatest cybersecurity threat in terms of national defense?
In terms of national defense, I would say one of the biggest threats is going to be the soon advancement of quantum computing technology. I had the unique opportunity also to visit IBM's headquarters while I was up in my internship, and they showed us their commercially available quantum computer. It's about $70,000, so it's very expensive, but for an organization that really wants to use it, that's peanuts. So they're able to use right now, I think, 127 quantum bits, which is compared to how many bits are in a regular computer, very, very small. But it's just going to keep getting better and faster, and unless we focus on, well, that's going to be a later question. But the advancement of quantum technology is going to allow code breakers to break through even our strongest cryptography way faster than they would previously. Another one of the biggest threats is the lack of declassified intel on foreign nations and their cyber capabilities. We do know that China's capabilities in cyber are not that far behind our own. We're keeping ahead for now, but the lack of intel on foreign nations and their capabilities is going to prove to be a threat in the future.
So I do think that organizations that are like organized black hat hackers, I'd probably say those are the biggest threat to our national defense. Not to like put down the threat of like China and Russia or Iran or like our adversaries across the world. But I think the black hat hackers are more numerous, and if they wanted to target the right areas, such as like the power grid, they could really put the American people in a bad state really easily. As of right now, a lot of what black hat hacker groups do is they get into a company system and steal other data, and occasionally this back, do this, and pay us $10 million or whatever. So they're after money. However, what could happen is, say China wants to start something. Okay, so they hire this black hat hacker group. Okay, take out the Pacific Northwest power grid, and now everyone's without power up there, and that puts that whole area in a state of chaos, and the whole country in a state of chaos. Because millions of people are out of power, and that, especially in our day and age, that will have devastating effects. So I'd say maybe nations that aren't friendly with us using black hat hackers to go after power grid, go after, I don't know. Did you all ever hear about the clone pipeline hack? Basically, some hackers took over a big pipeline company, which provides a lot of fuel and stuff, and that helps our economy run. And they ransomed it, ransomed their data. So I think something to that effect, black hat hackers acting under a nation that's sometimes friendly with us is their biggest threat.
I would say that the biggest threat would be to our national defense would probably be espionage. If you don't know what that is, that's pretty much being a spy. There's a lot that goes into espionage, given that you can raise somebody to be, perfect, average, normal citizen, but the capabilities they have in the future are going to be catastrophic, And when it comes to cybersecurity, that can be a huge problem. Given that, like I said, I'm in the Signal Corps, having someone who could be literally right beside me, giving away critical information is really huge. Intelligence plays a lot into everything. What you know about yourselves, your own country, but also what we know about other countries as well. Like you said, not having enough information. Well, I would say that when you know your enemy's capabilities, it's probably easier to take them down because you can plan for it. But when you don't, it's going to be a little harder. And it's a lot harder when they know everything about you. So having someone to be able to, potentially spy on a nation for who knows how many years, because they're still doing it. They're doing it now. But it just depends on what level it's at. I want to keep that to a minimum. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I see probably the greatest threat right now is China, but in a way that many of y'all probably don't see coming, or hopefully not coming. But the current conflict with China and Taiwan, right now in East Asia, 75% of all computer chips are being manufactured, with 90% of those more advanced chips being made in Taiwan. With the potential for China to take over Taiwan, that would leave China in the hands of major chip manufacturers like Taiwan Semiconductor and United Microelectronics Corporation. And so that gives a lot of power to China. Well, how? Well, first, they can control the manufacturing of the chips to potentially install spyware, backdoors, and, take these little devices and they can listen to everything you say, everything you see in this camera. Or they could completely cease chip manufacturing and exporting to the United States. And right now, the United States does not have the capabilities to create chips at the same rate that they're imported from these foreign countries. So we'll either be forced to take chips from East Asia if they were to be completely taken over by the Chinese, potentially taking the risk of whatever malware is installed on those devices, or paying significantly greater amount for what those chips originally were, just to let China see what they can do to our economy.
So what's been said so far sounds good. You have, espionage, you have ransomware attacks like the Colonial Pipeline, but honestly, what really enables all that, in my opinion, is the overall lack of awareness of cybersecurity among the general population. And so to me, that seems like the greatest threat to our national defense as far as cybersecurity goes, how little most people know about cybersecurity. We had a situation in Afghanistan a couple of years ago where troops were using Fitbit-type devices to run around a base, but this was public information. This is being posted to a social media-type running tracker website. And so the terrorists could just go online and look up this base and see where the activity was, where the movements were, and they could plot an attack using that information because the people using that service were not aware of the cybersecurity threat that posed. Another thing who has TikTok here, by the way? Okay, so you don't have to raise your hand if you don't want to, but that is something that is owned by a Chinese company, and in China, the way the law works is that if the government wants to access data from that company, they can, right? So that's something we need to be aware of as consumers of consumer products, consumer apps, is what are our apps giving to potential adversaries, right? And it's not just TikTok, but it's other apps. What information, what personal information, what secure, what sensitive information, even if y'all end up going into a position that requires a security clearance, what information are you putting at risk by your own cell phone, right? So I think overall the general lack of awareness among the general population is one of the biggest threats, if not the biggest threat, to cybersecurity.
Great answers. I love that they're all different too, and fortunately it is difficult to zero in on one, but you're probably all in some part a little bit right. All right. So this next question, it's broad, it's ambiguous, but you can zero in on it as you see fit. You can look at it from an international scale. You can look at it on a national scale, or you can just bring it down into the Army or the Air Force if you want. But either way, how do you see the current cybersecurity environment today?
So the current
So the way that I see the current cybersecurity environment is, it's almost like it's like a new frontier that we use for both good and bad. In my experience, I interned with the FBI this past summer, and I got to see that new frontier used in a bad way, because since it's not familiar to everyone, it can be exploited used for crime. Like I said, there are a lot of people who get access to a company's systems, steal their data, and ransom for millions of dollars. There's also other things, like just simple scams. I'm sure since we're young, we can kind of spot scams. Like someone would message you on Instagram asking for like suspicious things, like your information. Like, okay, that's obviously a scam. Like they want to skim my information and take my money. However, some people aren't as educated in that realm, and I think the best way to improve the cybersecurity environment to where crime and also threats cannot be like as easily flowing through it is to educate. From what I've seen, a lot of companies nowadays are aware of how important cybersecurity is. However, they have not placed enough emphasis on the education and the importance of it to the people who work for them. So I think to improve the cybersecurity environment, education, and stressing how important this new frontier is necessary.
I kind of agree with Vincent. Pretty much, it's a brand new frontier. Like, there's so many capabilities and opportunities out there, and it's really becoming a melting pot. It's extremely diverse. Anyone can get into cybersecurity, especially like everyone here has different skill sets. Something you're really good in, something you're not so great in. But like, I would say like, there are some skill sets that some people have, like such as they may know Mandarin, or they may know Korean, or any other type of language. And you can reverse malware and kind of like break it down. So like being able to reverse malware in a different language is definitely incredible, especially when you get to that type of level. So like it's things like that. Having different skill sets will definitely allow people to push their capabilities and opportunities and have them pretty much, I'm not going to say unstoppable, but they'll be great. They'll definitely be great. And there's some interesting work that can be done with that. Like you said, like the FBI, you can use it for good, you can use it for bad. Just so many places you can take it. Just depends on what you do with it.
Awesome. So how I currently view the environment right now is it is in significant need of more cybersecurity professionals. A recent study done by ISC2 Cybersecurity Workforce Group says that the workspace needs to grow by about 65% in order to meet the needs to secure an organization's critical assets. Now, to make this a little more personal, that could be your credit card information, your debit card information, social security number, whatever it might be, that anybody could access your identity, take all your money, take all your assets, stocks, whatever it may be. So the real only solution to this is either promoting, like we are people like you to try and pursue this degree, or something in that area, or to automate the tasks of those that are already in the workforce, to wait until the rate of employment increases, or potentially keep those automation of tasks, and so that more people coming in can continue to develop and explore more strategies to help protect that data that we have so dear to our hearts.
So something that Gabriel said kind of reminded me of something that I thought of. But one of the aircraft that I actually want to fly has the capability to take somebody's phone call or somebody's text and triangulate a drone strike in on that location. So just going along the lines of signals and cybersecurity and making sure that you're being mindful of those kind of things. But to take kind of a military-esque approach to this, the way I see the cybersecurity landscape from here on out is the future of warfare. So I don't see modern wars being fought in the domain of the battlefield as much as I see them being fought online and through cyber. And wars are going to be won and lost by who has better cybersecurity defenses. Because you can bring a country to its knees by taking out its power grid and its energy supply. Just with the Colonial Pipeline ransomware attack, that was done by, how many of y'all remember that, by the way? That was back May 2021. There was lines at the gas station right here in the southeast. Does anybody remember that? About a little over a year ago? That was because a group of Eastern European hackers, possibly related to the Russian government, encrypted a bunch of data on the Colonial Pipeline servers and demanded about $4 million. And so they paid it. They couldn't decrypt it. They didn't have backups, and they couldn't decrypt it. And so they paid that information just to get the energy back online. Imagine what a foreign adversary could do to us if we didn't have the proper cybersecurity defenses in place. And so that's the way I see the future landscape of cybersecurity is we have to have those defenses in place, because if not, then we are vulnerable to all sorts of different attacks from our adversaries.
Great points, gents. Thank you. So we're coming up. We got about 10 minutes left here, and before I keep asking you questions, I kind of want to open it up to the floor here. So does anybody have any questions that I can, for the panel members, that I can relay? Yes, Colonel.
Work will get along with one team. This is very applicable in my belief knows computers, so everything's percent bad in the dark. However, I know computers as a person, and you're going to be working with people, not just computers. I think no matter what field of study you get into, being a cadet through ROTC will improve your leadership, and basically in any aspect, you're always going to be working with people.
Hey, RJ, I'm going to get you another question, okay? Hey, that question was from Colonel Woodburn. This is being recorded, so I'm going to repeat it. He asked what leadership attributes and competencies helped contribute and shape them in their field of study. So, thank you, gents. Anybody else have any questions? Keep going down the line. Jim, you had a question? Mr. Crawford? So I'll repeat the question as I understand it, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Crawford. He's talking about zero trust application with inter and intrasite architecture. How do you protect data from something as vast and powerful as the quantum computing that you were describing earlier? Is that correct, Mr. Crawford? Yes. Okay.
I'm going to just say thank you for this question because I just learned a little bit about it. I'm not like, if I didn't mention before, I'm a sophomore, y'all. I just really got into my coursework, but Zero Trust is a very interesting model. It requires authentication at pretty much every step.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I really feel like it'll be really great in the long term because it doesn't take a lot to get credentials from someone, whether it's through social engineering or obtaining them however you do. And I think it will be very beneficial because it requires someone to stop every single time before you can truly get to that important information. So I think that's about as much as I can say.
Yeah, you've got to look at all the critical parts of your architecture, your location, and then how you, because when we do architecture, you have tier 0, tier 1, and tier 2 layer architecture. Tier 0 is up there, the Netherlands. And then tier 1, you can get involved. Tier 2 is your responsibility. So applying that at that level, looking at all of the critical points of your architecture, at your base or postcode for wherever you're at. That's where I see the zero trust becoming a critical part of protecting the network.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Crawford. And RJ, good answer. Anyone else have anything? Yes, sir. Go ahead.
MITRE attack. Yep, so there's a website called MITRE Attack, and they keep everybody up to date on what the life cycle of cyber exploitation is, what the top 10 threats are, most common threats. You can also learn about that through learning resources, not just research resources, through like Try Hack Me, and some courses you can find on Udemy, LinkedIn Learning, some things like that.
So Austin just answered a question, and it was, what resources does he use to keep up to date on threats and malware analysis? I assume. Sorry, it's being recorded, and they can't hear your question, so I'm just repeating it.
I actually have another resource really quick. It's called Bleeding Commuter. Sometimes they publish some articles about new cyber attacks, this one is hacked or this nation's system is attacked. So Bleeding Computer.
Another resource that I personally use is going on LinkedIn and looking at the Army Cyber Institute, the Army Cyber Center of Excellence, all these different cyber organizations that the military has, not just Army, but those are the ones I follow. They will often post speeches by different commanders and colonels and lieutenant colonels and all these people giving speeches about emerging threats and their proposed solutions. And there's a lot of straight from the source information from the people who are analyzing it every day.
Probably got time for one more question. If you guys got it. Yes, ma'am? Question was, what are the response plans when a threat is detected?
I'll let somebody else take that one.
So, from my understanding, this typically goes to one of our cyber defense teams, and they will analyze the situation and see exactly what's compromised, how bad or the severity of the situation, and then try to problem solve a way to fix it
not let them know that you know, kind of watch what they're doing with the access to that system. There's kind of two options that you have to shut it off immediately, or hey, let's keep it open and see what they're doing.
Yeah, that's a great point. Use cyber defenders and warriors. You're definitely more prone to be like, well, hold on, let's just take a look here and see what's going on. Signalers like myself and Colonel Woodburn, we just want to pull the plug and make it stop, right? Hey, thank you to each of you guys for what you're going to do for the country, what you're going to do for the defense of our cyber environment. That concludes our panel discussion. We will be around if you have any further questions, and thank you for coming.
There was one time we were talking, and I was like, what was the question? I was like, oh, that was the question. It took me like 30 seconds to just think about it. All right.
I got it.
Good job, everyone.
Yeah, I was like going down the list,
Yeah.
and I realized that I was actually looking over my notes for the wrong question.